Is going to be part 2 of the matrix and pattern. So this is a blog that Matthias Stefano wrote, and I compared it yesterday to the Law of One Tarot, and this is just a continuation. So yesterday we started from the beginning and got to about the 4th paragraph. So today we are starting here. So the me part of him, his consciousness, that asks the question to the higher self, says, is it possible then that what I am doing in my life is preparing to be a spider? And if you want to know what he means by that, just go watch the first part of this series. So the I am says, that's right. Joining the network, being in the axis of the fabric of planetary consciousness, each day you place yourself in the center of the fabric in a cube, from which you pull the resonance of the 4 times and the 4 spaces. And to do it every time more consciously, you work on your patterns, the strings that connect the web. So what this really reminds me of, if you're in the Law of One Tarot, comment below to what you think, okay? So this really reminds me of the significator and the transformation. So the significator of the mind complex is the first within the mind complex, the series from the matrix, potentiator, catalyst, experience. The significator, as we talked about yesterday, is the first indication of being in the box and being able to observe what is happening within. And to me, whenever that observation is happening, that is your significant self. So what you're doing when you become the significator, because it's the throat chakra, is you're able to tell yourself truth, absolute truth, and you are able to see perspective, as does the spider in the middle of the web. Before the significator, these guys are all, so the root chakra, Ross says not to really compare them to chakras, but I don't know why. I like to do it. If you have a different way of doing it, please let me know. I'm really open to anything. So I like to look at this like root, and then the orange ray, the yellow ray, and the green ray, right? So it's not until your heart expands and you're able to open up the throat. When you open up the throat and you really start seeing all these different perspectives, what you do is you start to break down the patterns, the old, maybe mucky patterns that were more yang. They were learned patterns. So when you're able to do this, I want to take it into the transformation. So transformation, so this is Gemini here, right? Like this is the Lover's card. So why is it that the transformation card, the Lover's card of the mind complex in the Law of One Tarot, why is it that these 3 or this one guy is not inside a box? If you look at the mind complex, we have the box outside of you, okay? And the magician is holding the sphere. The sphere, to me, represents absolute will. And the box, what we're caged in, depending on the patterns of your personal matrix, you lose intention in life. You don't know what your true divine purpose is in life, and that's what this 3D reality is designed to do. You don't know, you lose your true purpose, because divine purpose, when you really sit down and you start channeling the divine through the ideas or impressions that you get in your mind, or just you get an idea like this. When you start following that intuition, you'll be amazed at what the divine has thought out for you, or your higher self. It is way better and on such a different level that you wouldn't even be able to fathom it when you're able to do that. But that is very different when you see this box, all these patterns that make up the matrix, and all of the patterns usually are from the lower root chakra, which is mostly of fear for most people. So when you start releasing these patterns, which is going to take time because you got to go through the potentiator, she's sitting on the high priestess is sitting on the box. The empress is sitting on the box. Hell, the emperor is sitting on the box. And for the emperor, the heart chakra to be sitting on the box, the actual experience. So if your experience is more of grief in life, this emperor sitting on the box, the heart shrinks. Your external, your toroidal field, your aura shrinks. And what happens when your aura shrinks, you materialize that grief from the external environment, and it comes right back to you. So normally, a lot of people, their heart chakra, the experience they're having is of the lower chakras. And we know that. And it's because of the patterns that make up the matrix. A lot of people perceive their life to be those patterns of chaos, sorrow, pain, fear. And you need to go through to break these patterns here. You really need to get inside of the cube. Inside of the cube is where you have your significant self. And that, like I said, can only happen through perspective, because there is no truth, right? There is absolutely no truth. There's only wisdom. And these, in my opinion, a lot of these cards represent the astrology, the planets, just like the tree of life does, the star systems. Now, let's go on to transformation. So why does transformation not have a box? I want to go back to the vlog for 1 second. So he says, joining the network, being in the axis of the fabric of planetary consciousness, each day you place yourself in the center of the fabric in a cube from which you pull the resonance of the 4 times and the 4 spaces. And to do it every time more consciously, you work on your patterns, the strings that connect the web. So why is it that the transformation, the Lover's card, constellation of Gemini, does not have a box? Why isn't this person in a box? I believe that transformation of the mind complex, this is where sacred geometry is created. This is 6th density, right? I think it is. Maybe it's not. So 6th density is where all the patterns are created, where the flower of life. This is where sacred geometry started moving neurons and electrons and protons, and we began to see atoms, and we began to see minerals, and we began to see life on earth. It is through the 6th density transformation. It's always transforming. That is our purpose here. Therefore, when you're in 6th density, mind complex, transformation, the Lover's card, constellation of Gemini, you are now able to see all 12 perspectives of all 12 star systems, which are our archetypes here on Earth. You are able to see all 12 perspectives from the positive and all the light, and all 12 shadows of the sacred geometry that creates form. So of other people. This is why I feel as though the transformation mind complex, the body complex, which is the death card, Scorpio, and also the judgment card. This is why I believe the mind complex, the body complex, and the spirit complex of transformation is where sacred geometry is created. And we're meant to always transform. And how do you transform? You transform with language. You transform with truth. You transform body complex, the hangman. You transform with non-judgment. You transform by looking at the world and just looking at it. It is what it is. It is as it is, and it's perfect. And this brings you to the significator of the spirit complex, which is the Sun card. So I'm digressing a little bit. I really just wanted to talk about transformation, and I think I'm so slow at this. So I'm going to read a little bit more, and then we'll end the blog, okay? So then, and to do it every time, so every time you use the transformation, the Gemini constellation, the Lovers card, in your mind complex, you are consciously working on your patterns. You're working on your toroidal field. Isn't that so special? I think that is so special. You're consciously creating the tree of life. You're consciously now rooting. You're consciously making decisions. And you have now an intention. And I'll give you an example for myself. Like, I never thought I would write a children's book. I never in a million years thought I would write a children's book. But I sat down one day and all this stuff started coming to me. And the reason the stuff started coming to me was because I went to this like gathering. It was a women's group. And this lady there was an author, and she was talking about her experience in writing a kid's book. And I just thought, oh, that's so cool. I never thought anything of it. But one thing I know to do is the external environment, Mother Nature, is mirroring or giving me hints. Spirit, the transformation, mind complex, body complex, spirit complex, the higher self, through the sixth density, through sacred geometry, is always talking to me, is always speaking to me. So I know this. Therefore, I follow every single intuitive little hinge that I have from my external environment. And as this information started coming, like A is for awareness, B is for breath work, C is for consciousness, I started writing. And out of that came a kid's book. And this kid's book was written within like a week and a half or 2 weeks. It was so quick. But I never fathomed that I could do something like that. So that is, to me, where this part comes in. You can utilize the 4 times and the 4 spaces, and to do it every time more consciously, you work on your patterns and the strings that connect the web. So, each song that we are working on represents a pattern. Well, one of those network structures that I have to adjust in myself to be able to feel the vibration. So you can only feel the vibration from the middle in resonance. So to be in resonance with consciousness, the great way, so to be in resonance with the great way, right here, the chariot back in the middle, right? This is the crown. You need to make sure your patterns around your toroidal field, inside your body, your meridians, your CSF is right, your blood is right. How much absorption is the crown getting of nitrogen and phosphorus coming from the sun? That's where you're getting your wisdom and consciousness from. When you start realizing that CSF fluid is what opens up kundalini and stem cells, our production of white blood cells and stem cells is what brings up the kundalini in our consciousness. That is the great way, man. And when you do that, this flips your root. So your root here, this whole matrix, becomes the crown. As above, you're truly living from as above, so below. Again, I digressed. So each song that we are working on represents a pattern. Well, one of those network structures that I have to adjust in myself to be able to feel the vibration. The I Am says, the history of humanity exists thanks to patterns. Without patterns, you would not be here. The biology of this world was designed to protect itself from external conflicts. Thus, each cell of your body is programmed to defend your being and procure its subsistence. Hey Siri, what does subsistence mean?
Subsistence means the action or fact of maintaining or supporting oneself, especially at a minimal level. Do you want to hear the remaining one?
So, subsistence means the action or fact of maintaining or supporting oneself, especially at a minimal level. The action or fact of maintaining or supporting oneself, especially at a minimal level. Okay, so he's saying the biology of the world was designed to protect itself from external conflicts. Thus, each cell of your body is programmed to defend your being and procure its, subsistent at a minimal level, okay? Okay. That which has managed to protect you, which has been successful, continues to repeat itself constantly and proudly because of the patterns, remember? Thus, what protected you can continue to protect you forever, becoming a pattern. Culturally, hominids have put the hunter and warrior man in that role. And over time, they became to know him as the patron of the family, the boss, the father. Families then began to be guided by laws and instructions from the father, who also became patterns. The struggle for survival placed above all else the patriarchalistic system that ended up becoming the power of the father, patriarchy. Okay. So these patterns, that's why these patterns... Oh, Siri's still talking to me. That's why these patterns give you, or give the overall matrix more of a, like the patterns are more controlling, right? Yes, the patterns are controlling. Okay, so the patterns, thus any system that is arranged for the structure of war, defense, control, okay, cool, whether led by a man or a woman, I recognize as patriarchy, not by the male, but by the fight, supremacy, and defense. Thus, throughout the history of each family, patterns began to be repeated with the aim of protecting the integrity of the nucleus in the clan. So, yeah. So then Yo says, but there is a notion that patterns are bad. Why? There's an airplane flying by. Because patterns are based on fear and insecurity. Okay, this is what we were just talking about. In the face of change and transformation, all right, they ensue permanence. For this reason, when a person seeks to change in her life, she begins to identify the patterns that prevent her from doing so. And she is forced to fight against them to make her way to something new. It looks like a fly stuck in a spider's web. So, yes. So, let's go back and then we'll end the vlog. So, here, the matrix potentiator, catalyst, and experience of the mind complex, the body complex, and the spirit complex here. When we go just through these patterns, and it's more of your animal brain that's constantly, so if you're in the past or you're in the future and you're living in fear, those become your patterns. It's like a bee stuck in a spider web. You know, there's no way out. You feel like there's no way out until you get into the cube like we talked about already. I love you guys so much. Bye.